Ever wonder how Andrew Tate, Conor McGregor, and Jake Paul are able to catapult themselves into superstardom in such a swift and rapid manner? One moment you don't know or barely aware of who they are, and the next day they're everywhere on the news through word of mouth and trending in every social media platform that me and you couldn't help but take a glance at. The simple answer is because all of them possess and able to display an unprecedented level of audacity. They speak and do stuff that most people wouldn't even dare to partake or get involved in, and sometimes speak and do stuff that most people wouldn't even thought was possible or plausible. They are highly extreme and polarizing individuals that are not only capable to draw massive amounts of attention to themselves in such a short amount of time, but also captivate and retain them for long periods of time. Even long after we stop seeing them or hear about them, they will still linger ever so comfortably within our minds. So why does hearing and seeing bold individuals speak and perform generate so much interest within us that we can't help but want to notice and be involved with them? Let me explain. We as human beings are so easily drawn by anything that generates some form of emotional arousal within us, as they heighten our sensitivity to focus and recall intricate or selective central details of the circumstances that is happening in front of us rather than the circumstances surrounding us. Remember when I said that when you are excited and enthusiastic in doing something or speaking to someone for that matter, you become so immersed with it, her or him, that you tend to forget what time of the day it is. This is exactly the same dynamic occurrence. Whether the emotional arousals are positive or negative, it doesn't matter, as long as they are not passive, neutral, and degenerative that gets us to feel monotonous and subsided. That is why we are so naturally attracted to conflicts, dramas, controversies, and trends like bitter rivalries, intense debates, and provocative pranks. As the higher or more extreme the amount of emotional arousal we feel, the more engaged and fixated we will become with the circumstance in front of us, making it much easier or more innately subconscious for us to remember them even after we physically disengage from them. Especially as most people live a mundane and tedious life, so any slight emotional arousal will have a pretty high chance to captivate their attention. And just saying, this is probably the main reason why nice guys and people pleasers are ignored, by the way, because they are utterly neutral in their perspectives. And also this is why most people still stick to or can't move on from toxic relationships despite the abuse, because no matter how painful those emotional roller coasters are, they are psychologically, quote-unquote, not boring. But anyways, through these massive amounts of attention they're generating and the amount of animosity, edginess, and unfamiliarity they're demonstrating, those attention will eventually be split into both loyal followers and spiteful opponents. Because like I've said before, if you're a bold and polarizing individual, you will 1,000,000% make enemies. If Jesus, Allah, and Buddha themselves have enemies, what chances do you have in not making any? Nil. So there will be groups of people who will support you to death for your cause, as you represent a seemingly perfect example or inspiration for the ideals of your loyal followers. And there will be groups of people who would want to punch you in the face, stab you in the back, and probably also celebrate and piss at your corpse because you challenge and threaten the existence of the ideals of your bitter enemies. But regardless of followers or haters, as extreme individuals, you must leverage every opportunity you can through all these awareness and recognition to build your own personal brands, establishments, entities, enterprises, and social status. Truly extreme individuals are simply undaunted in involving or exposing or marketing themselves as much as possible in as many places as possible. Because one of their main goals is, whether you love them or hate these individuals, you will, without a doubt, notice or acknowledge their very existence. And that is pretty much what you need to do in order to have a good chance to swiftly catapult yourself into the upper echelons of society. Of course, don't expose or market yourself just for the sake of it, or just to say hello and bounce off hoping that people would want to eventually support you long term. For heaven's sake, please don't do that, because you will only make an utter fool of yourself and make yourself look like an absolute limp-wristed half-wit. Drawing people's attention in order to captivate them enough to make them become your loyal supporters is not exactly an easy feat. Especially in today's age where literally everyone is desperate for attention. There is an overload of commonality in the market, so you must find a way to stand out on your own. You need to have a strong foundation before you actually expose yourself. There must be actual distinct substance, integrity, entertainment, and uniqueness in both your polarizing words and actions. Or at the very least, possessing and demonstrating two of them, because without substance and integrity, you will be nothing but a slight, insignificant, unmemorable momentary gust in the wind. Just like like what happened to Dylan Dennis. And without entertainment and uniqueness, it's only a matter of time before people divert into other, more appealing options. Now, another very important thing to mention is that the life of an extreme, bold, and polarizing individual is not what most people ought to want them to be, as most people only fantasize of the circumstances that they want to befall them, like money or fame, and not the circumstances that they do not want to befall them. But as with every decision or choice, there will be rewards and there will also be consequences. You see, gentlemen, life at the top is not free of problems. It only gets rid of, or at least significantly relieve, the problems you are facing back when you are still in the rut or still climbing the ladder. Like previously, you may struggle to pay rent and now you're able to finally afford a nice house. However, with new life circumstances comes a set of new life problems. In this case of life at the top, the ever so increasing amount of expectations from you to deliver your promises to your supporters, the endless provocations and pressures coming from your enemies to watch you fall or die, and the necessity to constantly protect your image and reputation to appear perfect, they all can inevitably become too hard to accept and too much for one to handle, especially for those who are both physically and mentally fragile or unprepared to do so. And it is more common to those individuals who've risen to the top too quickly for their own good. That is why often you hear young celebrities or public figures getting addicted to drugs, engaging in questionable misconducts, and developing severe insecurities or mental health issues, because they just could not handle the sudden, dramatic changes in their lives and eventually wishing to go back, or at least contemplating to go back and live a normal life. One may wish for greatness, but one also may fear greatness to a much greater extent that can result in them falling from grace. You have to eventually learn to not give a fuck about pesky little things, and to achieve that, oftentimes you have to be utterly selfish for your own well-being, even if it means putting a little bit of stain and strain in your reputation. And to be honest, you need to be most of the times, because firstly, you will not be able to please everyone, and secondly, life at the top is ruthless. The standards are even higher and competitions are even fiercer. You can't afford to lose yourself in the moment for too long. You must demand more from yourself to keep yourself relevant in the game. That is why only few could handle and sustain such intensities in their lives. Now, is being extreme, bold, and polarizing the only way to achieve success? Of course not. There are endless ways to the top of the mountain, gentlemen, but this is by far and so far the quickest way to get there. Just look at Colby Covington. He was deemed as unappealing and no one knew who he was because he was so neutral in his approach and didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings, which caused him to get nearly cut from the UFC because he wasn't drawing enough eyes, ears, and butts for the business. But one flip of a switch through an extremely controversial, offensive, and provocative interview changed the entire course of his career and life forever.
Brazil, you're a dog! All you filthy animals suck!
The only question that remains is, do you gentlemen fear greatness? Obviously, most of us would casually say, of course not. Living a life being unwilling or unable to unlock, explore, and maximize one's full potential is a way worse form of existence than death itself. However, as much as every single one of us desire to be great, a lot of us greatly underestimate the challenges that will be imposed onto us, such as the immense sense of responsibility that one must possess to become one and remain one, and the profound changes in one's life that may isolate him entirely from normality. If you wish to become such an individual, this is something you need to take seriously, because as quickly as you can rise, it is even quicker when you fall. Thank you for watching.